Keiser Report rules everything around me. Right, Stacey?
Yes, Max. Well, in the second half, you talk to Bill Ottman of Minds.com, and I've been saving these headlines for him. And also in light of the tragedy out in Mountain View or out near San Francisco at YouTube, and the sort of craziness going on around social media, where we've been, they've become basically stuck in the middle of this hyper-partisan, crazy sort of times we're in, where both sides, the red team and the blue team, the Democrats and the Republicans, are all trying to demonetize and deplatform the other side and make sure they have no voice, no potential to reach an audience. So, however, now that we're a little bit away from that, I want to talk about this headline here regarding the social media and what we're seeing. Political arguments inside Google have gotten so bad that 100 employees formed a group to stop cyberbullying. About 100 Google U.S. employees concerned about cyberbullying inside the company have organized into a group proposing new policies for conduct at the unit of Alphabet. They said that they want to stop inflammatory conversations and personal attacks on the forums, to see punishment for individuals who regularly derail discussions or leak conversations. The group also wants Google to list rights and responsibilities for accusers, defendants, managers, and investigators in human resources case. The group also desires greater protection for employees targeted by what it views as insincere complaints to human resources used by bullying tactics and goading. So, it's quite interesting that they also point out that there were insincere complaints to human resources, this weird thing that's going on all sides, where they want to destroy the economic access for the other side based on political opinion. Like we've been somehow, there's no price discovery allowed. There's no opinion discovery. In the markets, you have price discovery, buyers and sellers meet. Here, ideas are supposed to meet in the marketplace, and you're supposed to discuss it and have debate and decide what's the best course of action moving forward. But both sides have, somehow we've lost any ability to have any conversation.
So these troll wars are happening inside the company. Is what I'm
Even
saying.
inside the company. James Damore, you know him, he was a conservative. He said that he was fired because he was conservative and supported Trump. He sued Alphabet. He said that he was not allowed to speak his mind because everybody there is liberal. So this kind of triggered the war going on inside the company. There's apparently an internal Slack or some sort of forum board where they're fighting. People are saying horrible things about each other. I don't know the full extent of the conversation.
I like that phrase. They're making insincere complaints to human resources.
Yeah.
So that tells me that employees are trolling human resources by saying, oh, such and such an employee is acting in a way that is illegal or against the rules or blah, blah, blah. And so they're at war. There's an internal war going inside the company. So therefore, we can expect that the people who use the product outside of the company would be involved in a similar war. If you have a company and inside the company, the people are getting sick on the product. Let's say you're a food processor and your employees are getting sick on that food, but you're selling the food to the public as well. Why don't you eat your own dog food is a mantra that you hear in corporate suites all the time. Their own product is diseasing. Is that a word? Is a disease within their own corporate culture is disintegrating. How can the product be allowed to infiltrate and go outside?
Well, my theory, looking at this and looking at the past year or so in the United States, is this is what a corporate citizen looks like. We are not citizens of a democracy anymore. In the past, one would appeal to your mayor or your local officials or your state officials or your elected national legislators to change things, or if you wanted to end discrimination against African Americans, like the civil rights movement. They didn't go appealing to some corporation to demonetize and deplatform that person. But you see that we've slowly evolved into sort of, neo-feudal times. Is you're under whatever corporation and you pledge allegiance to that corporation, or your only recourse to basically change the world and the environment around you is to appeal to some corporation. Exxon, please stop polluting. Google, please let me upload a video. Facebook, please let me communicate with my family. Like it's, or the opposite is like, Facebook, I don't like that person's message. Take them off Facebook and don't allow them to speak to anybody. Fox News, I don't like what that person, your presenter, said, so I'm going to contact everybody who ever advertises on your channel. I'm going to take them down. So there's our discourse. This is like corporate discourse now. We can only appeal to corporate masters.
Right, those corporate masters increasingly are ruled by algorithms.
Yeah, exactly.
On Wall Street, they rely on algorithms. Trading on New York Stock Exchange is run by algorithms. So the algorithms that guide the product of Google also guides the actions of the employees within a Google, and they can't stop the algorithm. Isn't this just like Fantasia, the Disney movie with Mickey Mouse, where he goes to war with the dancing broom and he tries to chop it down and it creates more dancing brooms and he creates a flood within the wizard's palace? I mean, these are algorithms that are out of frickin' control, and employees within the company can't stop them. They're at war driven by algorithm. Who's in charge, the algorithm or the head of Google? Who's running the show now?
Well, in the case of Facebook, some people say Mark Zuckerberg is a robot, so they're uncertain whether or not he's actually a real human.
Well, he was obviously birthed by some kind of mutant algorithm that got into the DNA somehow.
So I want to turn to Facebook in this next headline and Cambridge Analytica, because they gathered all the data, but Cambridge Analytica is getting a lot of the brunt of the ire and the outrage in the media, of course. But if there's one Cambridge Analytica, if there's one cockroach, there's thousands of other companies also collecting the same data. And there's a Harvard Business coined the phrase surveillance capitalism. That's what we now live in, is surveillance capitalism. But I'll wind back to what they say is, in the wake of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, news articles and commentators have focused on what Facebook knows about us. A lot, it turns out. It collects data from our posts, our likes, our photos, things we type and delete without posting, and things we do while not on Facebook, and even when we're offline. It buys data about us from others, and it can infer even more: our sexual orientation, political beliefs, relationship status, drug use, and other personality traits, even if we didn't take the personality test that Cambridge Analytica developed. These surveillance capitalist corporations have been collecting a lot of data on us that we have mostly provided for free because we were getting a free service. Of course, many, especially in the cypherpunk community, have warned that there's no such thing as free lunch. If you're giving them your data for free, of course, you are the product.
That's like calling crocodiles surveillance capitalists. Right? A crocodile is quiet in the water, waiting and waiting and waiting, and then they strike. So all the algorithms are in place, and these corporate jihadis are in place for an opportunity to make itself apparent, and then they predatorily jump in and rip to shreds the prey. In this case, the unsuspecting consumer or voter or citizen who is now being torn to shreds by the crocodile capitalist.
Well, they point out, this Harvard Business thing points out that, but for every article about Facebook's creepy stalker behavior, thousands of other companies are breathing a collective sigh of relief that it's Facebook and not them in the spotlight. Because while Facebook is one of the biggest players in the space, there are thousands of other companies that spy on and manipulate us for profit. It's called surveillance capitalism. There are 2,500 to 4,000 data brokers in the United States alone. Equifax is one of them. Of course, they basically are a private company that gives a social credit score to you. They collect data on you and tell banks whether or not you're trustworthy and whether or not you should be given access to any credit. That's one well-known company. But surveillance capitalism takes this one step further. Companies like Facebook and Google offer you free services in exchange for our data. Google's surveillance isn't in the news, but it is startlingly intimate. We never lie to our search engines. Our interests and curiosities, hopes and fears, desires and sexual proclivities are all collected and saved. Add to that the websites we visit that Google tracks through its advertising network, our Gmail accounts, our movements via Google Maps, and what it can collect from our smartphones.
So what's the difference between Facebook and this new super gonorrhea that's completely resistant to all antibiotics? In other words, there's no cure for Facebook now.
Yes, there is. It's called delete your account.
But you're saying it's cross-platform. The surveillance capitalism infiltrated every single orifice of our interaction with each other and our interaction with the cyberspace. That's the super gonorrhea.
It's called the Dewey Decimal System. It's called going to the library and researching in that space again. It's getting rid of your smartphone. But, I mean, that's not really practical.
In the 60s, they burned their draft cards. So you're saying it's time to burn our smartphone? And be free from this capitalist surveillance plague?
Well, you have to do it environmentally sound way because there's a lot of toxic stuff in there. So you can't just burn your phone, no, because it might be quite dangerous. But here, I do want to say, you know, my Google searches, if anybody has a blog platform or tries to tweet funny photos, like the searches I do to come up, you know, find some images, I think the surveillance capitalism might have a hard time selling to me because I put in some freaky search words.
Well, 99% of my searches are for Max Keiser. So it's all very self-reflective and narcissistic. You can come spy on me all day long and you'll learn all about me.
But,
learning about myself.
Okay, well, surveillance capitalism drives much of the internet. It is behind most of the free services and many of the paid ones as well. Its goal is psychological manipulation in the form of personalized advertising to persuade you to buy something or do something, like vote for a candidate. And while the individualized, profile-driven manipulation exposed by Cambridge Analytica feels abhorrent, it's really no different from what every company wants in the end. This is why all your personal information is collected, and this is why it is so valuable. Companies that can understand it can use it against you.
It's gaslighting. It's gaslighting on an industrial scale. They attack the subconscious mind, they get you confused, and then they rip you off. It should be illegal. It's anti-constitutional. It's crocodile capitalism. It's frickin' super gonorrhea from Mark Zuckerberg. There's no cure for it. No whatever it's called, what am I trying to say?
Anti-free speech, anti-censorship, they censor you. I myself have not been on Facebook for the last 3 months simply because we were in Miami. I took a photo in which there was a Native American artwork behind us, and it's not breasts, but it's like breast-like figures. It looks like there's some breasts in there, and they won't let me back onto the platform unless I go through every single photo I've ever uploaded in the past 10 years and confirm that each photo is there is no pornographic imagery in it.
It's like, you know, the punk revolution. They've kicked back against all this back in the day. All right, well, don't go away. Come back after the break. I will be blowing your mind. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Bill Ottman of Minds.com. Bill, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so it's Minds, MINDS.com.
That's it.
All right. This is going to be an interesting kind of look at social media. In this day and age of hashtag delete Facebook, you provide an alternative with Minds.com. Tell us about your platform. What is it? When did you build it?
Started in 2011, so we've been going for a while, just trying to build something that can actually scale. But so it's different in that it's open source. Anyone can inspect the code, share it. Free software movement, which I know you all have covered with Stallman and everything, essential. Like the next major networks have to be free software. Encrypted, so we don't take even personal information, we don't require it. You earn crypto for your activity on the app. This is sort of an emerging trend that people need to be rewarded for their energy on networks.
Okay, so it started in 2011, and it's following the free open source software movement, if you will, FOSS, which goes back to Richard Stallman and his proselytizing of this as being necessity to encourage best practices on the internet. And now we are in the wake of the huge Facebook meltdown, the revelation that all kinds of data has been sold. So Minds.com, number one, you're monetizing folks for their activity, which they don't do on these other social platforms. So Facebook's making a lot of money on other people's work.
Right.
So you're compensating people for their work.
Yeah, and in addition, no ridiculous algorithms that limit people's reach. So our newsfeed's 100% organic, so you'll always reach all of your followers. I mean, it's insane that they thought that that was okay at all to do. And then additionally, you earn the tokens, and then you can boost your content for more views with the tokens that you earn. So we're actually trying to get people's voices heard.
So it's kind of a feedback loop. So you can take your tokens that you're earning and invest in yourself, so to speak, to get a wider reach, thinking that you can actually build a better presence. And so how's the growth? You mentioned you're scaling the project. How is the growth doing, and how's the growth been in the wake of this Facebook scandal?
It's pretty good. I mean, we're around 1 million users, and daily signups have doubled. I mean, all of these things, whether it's censorship or surveillance or algorithms or demonetization, this just causes people to seek out new platforms.
Right, so the privacy is maintained because you don't actually keep the data, or you don't have...
We don't require people to identify themselves at all. You can be totally anonymous if you want.
So you consider yourself a Brooklyn company?
It's actually a Connecticut-based company, but we have an office in...
Okay, and so who's the competitor in this space, if anybody?
I mean, I consider everyone who's open source and working with crypto to be sort of a collaborator. Honestly, there's sort of a movement of networks that are on the same page. So yeah, you could call them competitors, but I consider the proprietary surveillance networks to be the real competitors. So like I would say. Diaspora, Mastodon, Steemit, these types of places are at least involved in the right direction. But I mean, for instance, with Steemit, I do have some criticisms on like sort of the whale economy going on within it, but I still think that they're up to good stuff generally.
Right, so all you guys together in your space are compared to let's say the market capitalization of Facebook and others, being in the excess of $1 trillion. So if you can just even get 10 or 20% of that market, your entire sector would grow enormously. So you all stand to do very, very well if you can move the current population of folks who are accepting the abuse they get at Facebook to not accept the abuse anymore on Facebook and to go to these other platforms.
Yeah, we're sort of, there's also all this regulatory stuff going on with crypto and token rewards right now in the US especially. So we're actually on Ethereum testnet right now, just making sure everything works. All the tokens work, you can boost with them, but we're really trying to prove the utility model and make sure that, we don't get that heat.
Right, so there is now some heat from the regulators about tokens. And so you mentioned utility token is a carve out of a specific type of token. And you guys have been around for a while, and there is a clear case for a utility token, if you will. Yeah. So how is that going, though? Do you have to spend now, allocate dollars to legal, and is that a drag in terms of scaling?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it should be done right because there are a lot of scam ICOs out there. So, but it needs to be balanced. You can't just call everything a security. That's ridiculous. So, the SEC exists for a reason, but they need to also be conscious of, the market.
Okay, so the token on your site is what? What's it called?
Mines.
The Mines token.
Yeah.
And was there an ICO?
No.
Right.
Well, we're easing into token sale, but we're running on testnet too. We're essentially doing airdrops every day of tokens for people's contributions. So based on your % contribution to the community and engagement, that's the % daily rewards you get of our pool.
Okay, so that is like Steemit to a degree, because there's a certain amount of Steemit that's kind of released on a regular basis, and then people are creating content for some of that Steem.
Theirs is more allocated in regards to voting power of an individual. So I think the more Steem you have, the more voting power you have. That's not really how it works on Mines. On Mines, based on more of the raw metrics and engagement that you're getting from the whole community, everyone's vote is more equal on our system, yeah. Okay,
so who handles the economics? In other words, you have a chief economy officer?
We are definitely talking with big crypto consultants to figure out all the token economics. We should have a conversation about it. That's what we're doing in this testnet. We haven't fully decided on the specific token economics because we want it to be as fair as possible. We're trying to get all the community feedback to make sure that the supply and everything is done perfectly.
Remember Yanis Varoufakis, who is the finance minister for Greece, was, before he was doing that role, was being a financial consultant for a crypto type of platform that was, I can't remember the name, maybe my associate producer will whisper it in my ear at some point. But in other words, they were bringing in a heavyweight economist to try to figure out exactly, and all the major economists like Nouriel Roubini and Paul Krugman and the heavyweights, the Nobel Prize winners, have all uniformly said that crypto and tokens are garbage. So, I mean, how are you going to find a heavyweight in the space that's going to, aside from myself, of course, who's going to come in and work this all out?
I mean, this whole field of tokenomics is like a rapidly emerging field. So I think that there are not really old school experts on it, but there are people who have good insights on what a sort of microeconomy would look like and how to make it healthy.
So you are obviously very concerned about leaking data to outside vendors. What do you? Let me ask you this. So there was this whole scandal recently. Apparently, some YouTube user went over to YouTube, Google, and started shooting up people because she was unhappy about her treatment on the platform. What is your reaction? Because you're in that business. What was your first reaction? What do you think?
Yeah, that's really scary. I mean, it's such a sad situation. I think that, so she was upset about being discriminated against. She was upset about her view count going down, you know, these types of issues about being censored. I think that what we're doing actually research on this right now, that censorship and abuse by these platforms actually amplifies violence and extremism. So while Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube think that, okay, we're going to ban all this speech, we're going to demonetize, we're going to push it off of our platforms. Okay, in the short term, that makes you have your nice little safe, happy place, but you're actually pushing the problem onto other places and you're further causing radicalization to occur. So, you know, I think a more mature perspective on it is to, you know, I take the Daryl Davis approach as this guy who converted like hundreds of members of the KKK, an African-American man who befriended them, had an honest conversation, tried to have the dialogue, and they all turned over their robes. Like, that's the type of mentality that we need with trolls.
I remember that story is fascinating.
Yeah.
But you've brought up a very interesting point here. So you're saying that an attempt to censor merely pushes the problem to other platforms and it metastasizes and actually creates a trend toward violence, more violence.
Yeah, there's actually a number of studies that prove this.
And so, you know, it's like when you have, you know, you push down on one area and it just pops up on another. I forget my metaphor.
Toothpaste tube.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, something. I'm out of metaphor suddenly. Oh, no. So the problem is one of free speech. So in America, though, it's supposed to be built on free speech. Where did we go wrong?
I mean, I think we're still okay. I think America actually has it right. The platforms are starting to not align with that policy.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying that these corporations are not hewing closely to the tenets of the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, and it's an understandable knee-jerk reaction. I mean, you have, like, a lot of this speech is awful and disgusting, and there's the violence. I mean, it's gross. But how do you maturely and responsibly deal with that? I think that it's just too short-sighted.
Okay, you're in the space. Yeah. You're obviously a techno dude. Let me ask you about 4chan. Okay, 4chan is a collective of meme spewers, and they capture the zeitgeist in a way that no one else seems to be able to figure out. The Pepe the Frog thing drove Hillary Clinton insane.
Yeah.
What are they doing exactly? In other words, they're tapping into the mass psychology in some way that is changing the politics of America in a huge way. And you know, you're in that business, and when you see 4chan, you see what's coming out of 4chan. What's your thought about it? Because it seems like they're performing a vital service because they're distilling all the trolls. They're coming up with a distilled troll. And then everyone else can say, you know, it's not an inchoate kind of mass lunacy. It's this meme. And this meme is now what we're dealing with. You know, and so we can organize against it. I realize this is a rambling question, but...
No, I completely understand. There's nuance and extremely dark humor involved in these memes. And so I think that the understanding context and that, yeah, there are people who...
Understanding the context. That's what we got to understand. Otherwise, people go and shoot people.
Yeah.
We're out of time, Bill. Thanks for being on the Keiser Report.
Thanks for having me, Max.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report. With me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert, I'd like to thank our guest, Bill Ottman of Minds.com. If you want to catch us on social media, it's on Twitter at Keiser Report. Please don't shoot.
Or Minds.
Yeah, we'll soon be on Minds.
Soon be,
Thanks, Bill.
hopefully.
Bill, I said goodbye already, and here you are, pumping Minds.com. Well, fair enough. Until next time, bye, y'all.